Okay, good evening, everyone. We are so delighted to see you for tonight's Tenant Thursday segment. Tonight, we will expand on the topic of the eviction moratorium and the changes to the moratorium and how they impact renters. And specifically, we'll be talking about how you can use LCBH's Rentervention platform to assist you in creating a COVID-19 impact declaration for your landlord. My name is Alan Haley, and I am the Director of Communications and Development at Lawyers Committee for Better Housing, or LCBH. And tonight we are joined by Connor Malloy, LCBH's Rentervention Project Director, and Tiffany Hill, LCBH's AmeriCorps Vista Communications and Social Media Coordinator. And in the coming weeks, you will see more of Tiffany as she begins to take over Tenant Thursday. So Tiffany, a warm welcome to you. And if you would introduce yourself to our viewers.
Sure. Thanks, Alan. Yeah, like Alan said, my name is Tiffany. I'm new to LCBH. I serve as the Communications Vista under the direction and guidance of Alan. And yeah, you'll be seeing a lot more of me during these segments in weeks to come, and I'm so excited about it.
Great. Well, welcome, Tiffany. So to kick us off tonight, just again, want to introduce everyone to Connor Malloy. And Connor, if you would introduce yourself to our viewers and tell us a little bit about what it is that you do and what is Rentervention.
Sure. So again, I think we've heard this about like 4 times now. My name is Connor Malloy, and I'm on the Rentervention project. And so, what the heck's that all about is, I've been doing it ever since I was little with Transformers. I play with bots all day. So Rentervention is sort of a 2-parter. The first part of it is what we'll see in a little bit here is there is a virtual assistant that is able to help tenants with certain housing issues. And it's mostly designed for Chicago tenants, although we do have some stuff for folks that are outside of Chicago. The other half of it is sometimes, just interacting with this virtual assistant. It may answer a lot of questions. It may leave some questions unanswered, or create some other questions that you might have out of it. And so what we also have there is a virtual clinic where tenants can come into it, work with either some of our staff attorneys or our pro bono partners that come from a handful of firms all across Chicago that just do a fantastic job of donating their time to be able to help folks in need.
Okay, so Connor, if you're a renter and maybe you're having problems with your unit or with your landlord, what kind of things can Rentervention do for you?
Sure. So to paraphrase from my 9th grade global studies teacher, don't talk about it, be about it. And so I think what we'll do here is I will share my screen. And we'll go to the Rentervention homepage, right? So this is rentervention.com. You can also go to lcbh.org and you will see Rennie, that's the little dude with the mask on, right? COVID conscious. And he's able to help folks. And it's like if you're on Rentervention or on the LCBH homepage, he's just chilling in the right-hand corner. You can click on him and have the same chat that you would have here on rentervention.com. So this is something that was designed, and I will give credit where credit is due to one of the people on the Rentervention project, Morgan Schumann, who authored the vast majority of the stuff that you see here. It's our COVID response virtual assistant. So this is front and center because that's what people are coming for when they're experiencing issues. And we break it down real nice for the different things that we see coming through the door a lot, right? Primarily preventing eviction, looking for rental assistance, these types of things that people are experiencing now. One thing I want to point out is especially handy, and it works best when you're on the website proper, not necessarily on a mobile device, even though it's totally friendly to mobile devices, is that it is accessible. So you can click on that little guy if you need to make the text bigger, that kind of jazz. You can make little modifications there. And so there's a whole lot of functionality to help folks that might be vision impaired on one level or another. So all you got to do just from the get-go is be able to, read the terms of service, always read terms of services and privacy policies, and then just plug in your zip code. That's the only piece of personal information it's going to need to be able to get the chat started. And what's fantastic about the way this works is you might be experiencing multiple issues. And so it's designed to be able to have a conversation to cover all of those in just a single conversational experience. So if I'm saying, oh, I want to prevent eviction, and in order to do that, I need to negotiate with my landlord. And in order to negotiate, I got to get some rental assistance because they're not going to take me seriously. Like I haven't been working for a little while, I'm making some income, but most of that goes to groceries and keeping the heat on. And so I'm going to need to learn a little bit more about rental assistance. Once you're ready to go, the Get Help will take you into the conversation, and you can begin to have a little chat with Rennie about where to go next. And he's just going to confirm that's what you want to talk about. You betcha. And here we are. And then the super important thing here is, one of the things it starts off with is this moratorium that a lot of folks are hearing about. To be able to walk you through that and see what it can do for you. And so, do you want me to talk about the moratorium here? I know.
Yeah, why don't we go ahead and talk about the moratorium here and things that are important for our viewers to know, whether they're a renter or maybe someone with a community organization that's getting calls from their constituents who are having trouble paying rent and are concerned about being evicted. Sure.
There's a whole lot of guidance for the moratorium on the Illinois Housing Development Authority's website. IDA it will be able to have frequently asked questions and all that kind of stuff. We do a little bit of that, but the two big points, and you'll see them in a second when I dive into the moratorium here, is it's an affidavit, right? So this is a statement that you're making, under oath, hand to God, or whatever, higher being that you believe in, that this is the truth. And beyond that is talk is cheap, and so the important thing that we're finding with the declaration that people sign, this affidavit, is you may be called upon at one point in time to back it up. So if you're saying that your income is this, or you've been unable to do that, then you should have some sort of documentation or otherwise to be able to support what you're saying in here. I absolutely cannot stress that enough. And while there might be problems with it, it's really one of the best tools that a tenant could have to try to stave off some of just the tremendously negative impacts of an eviction. So if you're cool with it, it talks about, like, Governor Pritzker, what's been going on, and to see if you're protected. And it usually takes a few minutes to go through it. When you click on this button here, it's going to open up a new tab to be able to work with the declaration. We built this app with some folks that do great things for for-profits, nonprofits, and the like, just do-gooders who help folks build their own apps to be able to provide these types of tools for folks. And so if I click on there, it's going to open it up, and it's got all these nice little links in it. So this isn't just a bunch of baloney, right? Like, you can see the governor's orders if that's something that's important to you. And then it also reminds people that about the Rentervention terms of service and privacy policy. And really, the only thing I'm talking about there is we don't do anything. We don't sell your data, nothing like that. So the data is as secure as we can get it, and we take care of folks. So without further ado, if people are ready to jump in, it's going to ask just some preliminary questions. And I may as well just open that up a little bit. Is that a little bit better? So
yeah.
At least one of these should apply to folks. And if none of them apply, then that's going to be the end of the line for you, in any one of these steps. But I'm just going to go through it as if these things apply to folks. So let's say I'm married, we combined income like 80,000 last year or something like that for my household. Then it looks like you would qualify, and this is for calendar year 2020. The next part of it is you are unable to make your rent payments because of COVID. Now remember, it has to be because of COVID. So you've got to be able to attach it to that. And you're unable to make a full rent or housing payment. So if your rent is $12.50 a month or whatever else, and you can't afford that, the other thing is, and we'll see it in a second here, is that you are trying to do something. You're trying to seek rental assistance, or you're paying something to your landlord. And if you flat out can't, you got to be able to back that up. So I'll go ahead and say that I agree with that. And this is the other part, is best efforts. Now, that's a difficult statement, but if you feel like you're making your best payments to do stuff, and I get it, there's a lot of things that tug at people's purse strings, right? Kids have school fees. You've got childcare expenses because you finally, your office opened up again, and you're going back to work, or you're going back to work part-time. To make those your timely partial payments, if you are making partial payments. And then finally, if you were to be evicted, right, would it put your health at risk, or the health risk of your family? If you had to go into like a group setting, or a homeless shelter, there might be some concerns there. So there's a true risk of homelessness. And then finally, it's going to let you know that you qualify under the Illinois Housing Development Authority and the governor's eviction moratorium. So this is when it's going to start to ask for personal information, right? Whenever we don't need your personal information, we're not going to ask for it. But when we do need it to be able to get you to the next step, there you go. So we will do, I always have Terry tenant is experiencing all sorts of issues. And we'll do Terry and Larry landlord. Okay, so just like 4 bits of information that need to be popped in there. And then there's just the final, confirmations here that you understand, that you still have obligations under your lease. This doesn't this protects you against eviction, but it doesn't protect you against, if you're responsible for some of your utilities or other things that are part of your lease, this isn't a blank slate. So if you can agree with that, and that you understand, and a lot of people should understand, this eviction moratorium, although it's going to technically end in about a week and a half, and it may be extended, there's no givens, but it will end at some point. And so then there's just the final question here, is that you are responsible for some amount of rent. You still have those obligations. And there you go. This is a statement under oath, so you got to sign it. What we do here, and if you're on a phone doing this, you can use your finger, or I have the mouse on the screen here. There's no special application that you have to download to be able to do the e-signature. And I just give it a little squiggly do of sorts. My signature is nothing to write home about. And then before you do anything with this, right, you can take a look-see. All right, let's see what's going on here. So the way we start off is like a little bit of a letter to the landlord to let the landlord know what's going on here, what the effects of this, that I'm a covered person, you can't do this, that, or the other thing, just sort of setting it up. That's our own little thing that we put on there. And then there's the actual declaration that's signed. And so, it transfers over my signature, and it's got the date from today. For some folks, your landlord might not be like living upstairs, or you might not have easy access to them. You can also email it to them. Especially with social distancing, you may not want to, have to, take the bus across town to drop it off at some management office. You can also email it to your landlord. And so all you got to do is pop in the landlord's email address. And so if we have Larry landlord is going to get it, what's going to happen is after you send it, it takes about if you don't notice anything in your email, because you're going to get, copied on it within about 30 seconds, come back. I noticed some people put in they mess up the email address, they don't give a full email address, but you will get something, or check your spam. But then your landlord, this is the part of the thing where it's like on a cooking show, I take the baked pie out of the oven or something. They're going to get the communication from Rentervention, and you'll see the tenant gets CC'd on there, part of the communication, and then they get the declaration in full, signature and all. And then for some folks that might not even be going to the chatbot, what's important to remember is if you go to go.rentervention.com/declaration, it'll take you straight to the same thing. So you can do it from there as well. And so I know this link sits on some other, some friends of ours on their websites, and it takes you to the exact same thing. I think we've had probably somewhere to close to 2,000 folks use this tool. We've had nearly 1,000 people do declarations using this tool. And what's important too is, right, if we got nearly 2,000 that are doing something, but only about 1,000 using it, there's probably a lot of reasons why we don't get that full number. And it's maybe because you don't satisfy all those elements, right? And so, to be honest with yourself and honest with others when you're filling that out, that everything applies to you.
So Connor, we have a question in the chat, which is, if you have your landlord's email address, isn't it a good idea to send an email so that you can prove that you did complete it and send it?
Yeah, especially technically speaking, if a landlord gives you an eviction notice, they have to give you a copy of this declaration to give back to them within several days. Okay. And sometimes, and if you don't give it back to your landlord, or let's say it doesn't apply to you, then the landlord is free to file an eviction against you. So what you don't want to have happen is you give it to the landlord, and then the landlord files it anyway and says, oh, I didn't get anything. This helps to create an email trail. It's that you sent it over. You don't even have to wait for an eviction notice. You can just straight up send this to a landlord without having to wait for them to take any certain action. Or if you feel like they might be threatening you with eviction, to be able to send something out and sort of get ahead of it. That's one tactic. But anything to be able to create that record that you sent it, and it was especially timely sent to your landlord. That's going to be super important under the governor's new order. Fantastic question, though.
And if I understood you correctly, did you say this is something that you could even, provided you can document your claim to have been impacted by COVID and have an inability to pay rent, this is something you could submit now, and you don't have to wait for your landlord to take some type of action against you?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I said, they're obligated to send you something at some point, like when they give you the eviction notice. But there are a lot of folks out there that just do this as a preventative measure. And when you put your landlord on notice that you might be under dire straits, there's a whole heck of a lot of landlords out there that would be willing to work with a tenant to be able to work out a payment plan or other things to be understanding about it. And from what we know as well is that there's going to be a new round of rental assistance coming out in the next few weeks here. That could mean thousands upon thousands of dollars for landlords to be able to get rental assistance and start to pay down or pay off that debt.
Okay. So do you have to be a renter living in Chicago to use Rentervention, or is it something that you can utilize if you're outside Chicago?
Yep. So if I go here and we'll start again. Let's say I want to prevent eviction, and I don't know, I'm up in like Highland Park. It's still going to offer you that moratorium right from the get-go. So if you could be across the state of Illinois, in any county, and it'll offer you this tool. So that, since it's the governor's moratorium, that's something that's available. But once you start getting into other areas of intervention, there's going to be things that become a little bit more limited. For example, access to the virtual clinic is only for Chicago tenants at this point. And so, we get people that come through Rentervention, and I want to say too, is that we get a lot of people that apply for the virtual clinic. This thing's running 24 hours a day, and it's free, to be able to use Rentervention, and even for free legal services inside the virtual clinic. So we get people coming all the time through the chatbot. We have people coming through from some of our community partners, like the Chicago Tenants Movement. Has a relationship with us where they can refer folks over. There's really a lot of ways to get in there. But again, that part is only for Chicago tenants. A lot of the material here, like getting access to rental assistance or like shelter information, that's going to be from what we found for various resources statewide on many levels. So it really goes City of Chicago, then there's going to be Cook County resources, and then statewide resources outside of Cook County.
Okay. It seems like from when Rentervention was originally conceived to today that it's grown and evolved in a lot of ways. Could you talk about how COVID-19 has impacted what Rentervention is used for and able to provide?
Yeah, so when it first came out, right, there were your run-of-the-mill housing issues, people that are just facing eviction, right? Evictions have always been an issue. You get like 25,000 of those filed in Cook County every year. You get people with conditions issues, where there's mold inside of their home, or there's something wrong with the hot water that they're not getting access to. So it was helping with a lot of that stuff, where you can create letters to your landlord to be able to get them to take action. One of the things that happened with Rentervention as we came into this COVID era is really twofold, is to specifically address the issues that we started to hear about, after March, as things started to snowball, and we wanted to get ahead of it. The second thing we were able to show is just how quickly we could pivot to do that. And so, for example, this new declaration, right, on February 5th, I believe I was modifying the declaration like that morning on Saturday morning to be able to update it with the new language and everything. So we can do stuff to be able, if there is something new in the law, or some other like new rental assistance program that we hear about it, Rentervention is going to get that information very, very quickly and put it in the hands of the folks that could really make use of it. And that's what like the whole COVID crisis hopefully showcased with Rentervention.
Another really good question here in the chat, Connor, we have, what about the federal law that also allows for a declaration and your inability to pay is not due to COVID? Does Rentervention have a federal form?
Rentervention used to have a CDC declaration until the governor came up with the Illinois declaration, because we thought it spoke better to the issues inside of our state. And so that's when we came up with the Illinois declaration. And the other thing we realized as well is that the effective dates of everything, and like when these all lapsed, they were kind of matching up with each other. And so it's not like one could necessarily, like, even though the CDC declaration is next month, but not that one could give you longer protections than another. And so, and a lot of judges, we were anticipating if people were in eviction court would probably be more familiar with the Illinois declaration rather than the federal document.
One of the questions I meant to ask you earlier, and you mentioned the virtual clinic. If you could describe again what the virtual clinic is, and we've talked tonight a lot about what Rentervention can do for you as a renter. Are there ways that if you are an attorney and want to volunteer your services that you can get involved with Rentervention?
Sure. So what the virtual clinic is really designed to do versus, let's say, what Lawyers Committee for Better Housing does, and we'll just take eviction defense, for example, is when you go to Lawyers Committee for Better Housing, and you're looking for eviction help, really the type of service that you're looking for is when you find yourself in court, you've got somebody in a suit, or otherwise standing next to you and is gonna help you, through thick and thin, beginning to end through that process. There's only so many of those people, and there's only so much time in the world to be able to provide those types of services. We'd love to have everybody have representation, but it's just not the reality. So what Rentervention in the virtual clinic is designed to do is provide brief services. So what that could mean is, let's say you have an issue with your landlord, there's landlord harassment, or the landlord is threatening to evict you, or hasn't taken certain actions to fix issues at your property. We could have an attorney be able to come into that situation, try to understand it better, right? Because both sides have their facts, but they might not have the law. And so that's where our volunteer attorneys can come and bring their expertise to bear, and try to resolve that. Try to be able to talk with the landlord, and be the mouthpiece for the client for that particular issue. And it's really done in this whole virtual environment. So nobody's having to be like dragged down to the office to fill out a bunch of paperwork or something like that. Or even on the attorney's side, they don't have to like come down and necessarily meet with people face to face. A lot of this is done virtually. So the same way we're doing the Tenant Thursday here, or on the phone, email, some people might even text folks. It's all being done that way, and it was always designed to be more of a convenience, for our clients. But now, obviously, there's the safety component, and to keep everybody safe, but also keep serving folks. And so, we do trainings for them for our attorneys that come in, and it's usually a brief training, and there's also, for some of these trainings, there's CLE credit available for folks. That's always a decent little thing. But the idea too is that you're not going to be in this matter for like months at a time, right? It might be a phone call. It might be a phone call and like helping a tenant draft a document or look over a document. But if folks go to rentervention.com /volunteer, there's a little form here. And then that fires off an inquiry to my colleague, Morgan Schumann, who runs the virtual clinic, to be able to figure out, if this is something that's a good fit for our pro bono partners, and how to get them onboarded and helping folks out.
Connor, another question here is, can LCBH attorneys help tenants that meet the CDC rules, but not the Illinois rules?
Yeah, so the way the governor, the way the governor's order is worded is that tenant protections, like the governor decreed, can exist with the Illinois declaration or any similar declaration. And I can tell you, there's not a whole lot of other declarations floating around the world, so they really just mean the CDC declaration. So a lot of those could provide, the same coverage under the Illinois moratorium on evictions.
Okay. You've talked tonight about Rentervention as it was originally conceived, and then its expansion and adaptation to COVID-19 and the unique housing crises it has unleashed. What would you say over this period from when Rentervention was launched to today, what has Rentervention's impact been, either for the individual client or just bigger picture, what's been happening?
Yeah, like we've really seen, and it's unfortunate on a whole lot of levels, right? Like just a tremendous uptick in the amount of people using Rentervention. Like Rennie has really been trending around like 1,200 conversations per month over the last few months. But the idea when Rentervention was developed is you can Google all sorts of stuff, like I'm getting evicted and things, and not all information is created equal, right? The idea was something like this, is where this little bot, this little virtual assistant can better understand you and the situation that you're facing, and to be able to give you educated options, right? So where we have all these laws on the books, love them or hate them, that are there to protect tenants, but those really aren't worth a damn if you can't have that rubber hit the road, right? So Rennie is that vehicle to be able to do that. So if you have to make a request to your landlord to be able to take action, because you don't have access to heat, you can spend hours at your local library leafing through city ordinances, or come to Rentervention and just flat out explain what the heck's going on, and then begin to get those options. And then once you get those options, to then be able to create that document and also know what the heck to do with that document once it's done. And for example, if you want to send a letter, like a 14-day letter for a landlord to make repairs, we'll even send the darn thing for free. We eat that cost to be able to send it by regular and certified mail return receipt requested. Again, because it's important to verify that that document was sent out and sent out in a timely fashion. So that's, again, just like an added value to being able to use this system. But I'd say that's the big impact, is just returning power, to folks that might find themselves like powerless and paralyzed by all of this, and also to provide certainty. Like I can tell you, when I see somebody doing a declaration at like 3 a.m, because I see when all this stuff happens, you're thinking that's like keeping that person up at night, right? That they get home from work, maybe they came off a late shift or something, and that's what's weighing on them before their head can hit the pillow. And if we can do something to get you better off than where we found you, that's a win. Like it might not solve all your problems, but it could solve at least one night's sleep.
Well, that's a great answer to what I think is our concluding question. Connor, any parting words of advice or elements of Rentervention that we haven't covered tonight that you want to share with our guests?
Yeah, this, we can build out everything in the world to try to solve for all the problems we think exist, right? But we love hearing back from folks. There's ways on the website to be able to hear back from folks on, especially whether or not, like when you first come to the site. So for some folks at the end of the conversation, we're going to ask, did we like deal with what you first came here for today? And so that's really important, is to give us feedback, because we want to make this something that's useful for folks and accessible. And whenever we fail at that, it weighs on me, and I want to be able to build something better for people to help out. So share the darn thing with everybody to be able to get help. And then if you don't like something, don't hold back.
Well, thank you so much, Connor. It's exciting to work with LCBH and you, especially on this project when there's such urgent need. And thank you to everyone who's listening tonight. You can go to www.rentervention.com to get help immediately. And please stay tuned for future episodes of Tenant Thursdays to be hosted by Tiffany Hill in the future. So again, welcome Tiffany, and we can't wait to see what you do with Tenant Thursdays. So with that, good night, everyone. Thank you for all the work you do on behalf of Chicago tenants, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks, y'all. Bye, Tiffany. Bye, Alan.
Thank you.
Bye.